The email arrived on a Tuesday afternoon, just as I was about to give up on my job search for the day. The subject line was simple but arresting: $10,000 for one night's work. My first instinct was to delete it. Another scam, another waste of time. But something about it made me pause. Maybe it was the desperation clawing at the edges of my mind, the kind that makes you consider things you'd normally laugh off. I clicked on it. The message was from someone named Mr. Blackwood. He explained that he was the owner of Blackwood Manor, an old, abandoned mansion on the outskirts of town. He needed someone to stay in the house overnight to test its habitability for potential renovations. The job seemed straightforward: arrive at 8 p.m., stay until 6 a.m., and follow a set of rules he provided. If I followed the rules and made it through the night, I'd be paid $10,000 in cash the next morning. No questions asked. I stared at the screen, my heart pounding. It was too good to be true. But then again, what did I have to lose? My bank account was in the red, my landlord was threatening eviction, and my car had just broken down for the third time that month. $10,000 would change everything. So, against my better judgment, I replied. The mansion loomed before me as I pulled up the gravel driveway. It was exactly as I'd imagined: a sprawling, Gothic structure with ivy crawling up its cracked stone walls. The windows were dark, some shattered, and the front door looked like it hadn't been opened in decades. I parked my car and grabbed my backpack, which held a flashlight, a water bottle, and a notebook. Mr. Blackwood had insisted I bring nothing else. As I approached the door, I noticed an envelope taped to it. Inside was a single sheet of paper with a list of rules written in neat, precise handwriting. The rules were as follows. 1. Do not enter the house before 8 p.m. or leave before 6 a.m. The doors will lock automatically at 8 p.m. and will not reopen until 6 a.m. Attempting to leave early will result in severe consequences. 2. Stay in the main foyer until 9 p.m. Do not explore the house before this time. The foyer is safe. 3. At 9 p.m., proceed to the second floor and enter the master bedroom. The door will be unlocked. Close the door behind you and do not leave until 11 p.m. 4. Between 11 p.m. and 1 a.m., you are free to explore the house. However, avoid the basement at all costs. If you hear footsteps coming from the basement, return to the master bedroom immediately and lock the door. 5. At 1 a.m., return to the foyer and sit in the center of the room. Do not move or make a sound until 3 a.m., no matter what you hear or see. 6. From 3 a.m. to 6 a.m., you may sleep in the master bedroom. Do not leave the room during this time. If you hear knocking on the door, do not open it under any circumstances. 7. If you see a figure in a black suit, do not engage with it. It will not harm you as long as you follow the rules. 8. Do not look out the windows after midnight. What you see may not be real. 9. If you break any of the rules, there is no way to save you. I read the list twice, my hands trembling. This had to be some kind of joke, right? But the money was real. I checked my watch, 7:55 p.m. 5 minutes until I had to go in. I took a deep breath and stepped inside. The foyer was massive, with a grand staircase leading to the second floor. The air was thick with dust, and the only light came from the fading sunset through the windows. I set my backpack down and sat on the floor, trying to calm my nerves. The rules said the foyer was safe, but the silence was oppressive, and every creak of the old house made me jump. At 9 p.m., I climbed the stairs to the second floor. The master bedroom was easy to find. Its door was slightly ajar, unlike the others. I stepped inside and closed the door behind me, as instructed. The room was spacious but eerily empty, with only a bed and a single chair. I sat on the bed and waited, my heart pounding. The next 2 hours passed in agonizing silence. At 11 p.m., I left the room and began exploring the house. The hallway was dimly lit by moonlight, and every shadow seemed to move. I avoided the basement, as per the rules, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching me. Around midnight, I heard it, footsteps, slow and deliberate, coming from the basement. My blood ran cold. I rushed back to the master bedroom and locked the door, my hands shaking so badly I could barely turn the key. The footsteps grew louder, climbing the stairs, until they stopped outside the door. I held my breath, waiting for something to happen, but after a few minutes, the footsteps retreated. At 1 a.m., I returned to the foyer and sat in the center of the room. The next 2 hours were the longest of my life. The house came alive with sounds, whispers, laughter, and the occasional scream. I kept my eyes closed, too afraid to look, and focused on staying still. At one point, I felt something brush against my arm, but I didn't dare move. By 3 a.m., I was exhausted. I returned to the master bedroom and lay down on the bed, though I knew I wouldn't sleep. The knocking started around 4 a.m., 3 sharp raps on the door, followed by silence. I stayed in bed, clutching the blanket, until the first rays of sunlight peeked through the curtains. At 6 a.m., I left the house and found Mr. Blackwood waiting outside. He handed me an envelope filled with cash and drove away without a word. I never saw him again. But the house stayed with me. Even now, I can't shake the feeling that something followed me out that night. And sometimes, while I'm alone in the dark, I hear footsteps. I thought it was over. I thought I'd survived the night, followed the rules, and earned my $10,000. But the truth is, the nightmare didn't end when I left Blackwood Manor. It followed me home. The first sign that something was wrong came a week later. I was in my apartment, trying to forget about the whole ordeal, when I heard a faint knocking on my front door. 3 sharp raps, just like in the mansion. My blood turned to ice. I didn't answer the door, and eventually, the knocking stopped. But it didn't end there. The footsteps started next. I'd hear them in the middle of the night, pacing outside my bedroom door. Sometimes, I'd wake up to find my bedroom door slightly ajar, even though I always locked it before going to sleep. And then there were the whispers, soft, indistinct murmurs that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. I tried to convince myself it was all in my head, that I was just traumatized from my night in the mansion. But deep down, I knew the truth. Something had followed me out of Blackwood Manor. Something that didn't belong in this world. I thought about reaching out to Mr. Blackwood, but I had no way to contact him. The email address he used was no longer active, and when I tried to visit the mansion again, I found it had been demolished. It was as if the house had never existed. But the thing that followed me, it was very real. And it wasn't alone. The first time I saw it, I thought I was hallucinating. I was in my kitchen, making coffee, when I caught a glimpse of something in the corner of my eye. I turned, and there it was, a tall, gaunt figure in a black suit, standing in the doorway. Its face was featureless, just a smooth, blank expanse of skin. It didn't move, didn't speak. It just stood there, watching me. I froze, my heart pounding in my chest. The rules had mentioned a figure in a black suit, but I'd never actually seen it in the mansion. Now, here it was, in my home. I remembered the rule, do not engage with it. So I didn't. I turned back to the coffee maker, my hands shaking so badly I could barely pour the coffee. When I looked again, the figure was gone. But it didn't stay gone. Over the next few weeks, I saw it more and more often. It would appear in the corner of a room or at the end of a hallway, always watching, always silent. I started to feel like I was losing my mind. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. I was constantly on edge, waiting for the next time it would appear. And then, one night, it spoke. I was lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, when I heard it, a low, guttural voice, coming from the corner of the room. You shouldn't have left, it said. You broke the rules. I sat up, my heart racing. The figure was there, standing in the shadows. Its featureless face seemed to twist into a grotesque smile. You thought you could escape, it continued. But you can't. You belong to the house now. I wanted to scream, to run, but I couldn't move. I was paralyzed with fear. The figure stepped closer, its movements unnaturally smooth. You'll come back, it said. You'll come back, or we'll come for you. And then it was gone, leaving me alone in the dark, trembling and gasping for air. I don't know how much longer I can hold out. The figure in the black suit is getting bolder, appearing more frequently, speaking more often. The whispers are louder now, more insistent. I hear them even while I'm awake, a constant, maddening drone in the back of my mind. I've tried everything to get rid of it, holy water, salt, even an exorcism. Nothing works. The figure just laughs, a sound that chills me to the bone. You can't escape, it says. You belong to the house. I'm starting to think it's right. I'm starting to think I'll never be free. Maybe I should go back to Blackwood Manor, face whatever's waiting for me there. Maybe that's the only way to end this. But I'm afraid. Afraid of what I'll find. Afraid of what will happen if I go back. Afraid that I'll never leave again. The knocking is getting louder now, more insistent. The footsteps are closer. The whispers are almost deafening. I don't know how much longer I can hold out. I don't know how much longer I can survive. If you're reading this, it means I didn't make it. It means the house finally got me. Maybe I went back. Maybe it came for me. Either way, I'm gone. But if you ever get an email offering you $10,000 to stay in an old mansion overnight, don't do it. No amount of money is worth this. No amount of money is worth the terror, the madness, the endless, unrelenting fear. Because once you enter Blackwood Manor, you'll never truly leave.